once, but several times. This administration's zero tolerance policy against bullying is a name only in carwise. It's a joke. It needs to be vamping. At a minimum, some of your administrators need to be replaced for failing to adhere to your own policies. After repeated and severe harassment to my family member at carwise, I posted on the Nextdoor app what to do about bullying in carwise. I got over 480 responses, and I live in just a sliver of carwise school zone. I was sickened and stunned to learn how common a problem this is, and nothing being done about it. This front and back is not 480. These are the parents and some students now in their early 20s that are on that app, complaining, telling their personal stories about bullying at carwise and nothing done. From these reports, I also learned that our bullies have been repeat bullies. So I ask you, why are they still there? As to your solution to victims of bullying, the Hope Scholarship, maybe $7,000. Do you realize that the average cost of a private or parochial school in Pinellas County is $15,000? Way beyond the means of most people. And then I had the thought, why in the world does the victim have to leave school? Why is the bully still at that school repeatedly? Stop victimizing the victims. And in closing, I ask you, how much blood does this board want on its hands? 2 years ago, this month, under the same administration, a 6th grader killed himself because of bullying at carwise. So I demand, will this school board hire an outside agency to conduct a thorough investigation of what's going on there?
Madam, your time has exceeded, so if you'd like to stick around and speak with an administrator further, you may do that, but we need to move on to our next speaker. Thank you very much.
All of our letters have been ignored by the school board.
No, they really haven't, but I'm going to ask you, Dr. Gonzalez, to speak with me. You could certainly are familiar with the situation, but please meet with the area superintendent. Thank you.
All right, this is what zero tolerance for bullying looks like. It looks like numerous emails and phone calls to school and district personnel. It looks like reports to law enforcement and say something. It looks like damaged speakers and property. Even a gift from school staff didn't make it home in one piece. You want to know what else didn't make it home in one piece after attending Carwise Middle School? My son. You, along with Carwise Middle School, had my son for 18 weeks and you crushed him. You destroyed him and our entire family. Yes, you, as representatives of the district who have a responsibility to look out for the safety and well-being of students. You failed us, and your continued inaction is failing others. By the end of August, my son had already completed a Say Something report about being bullied by certain students. The way that report was handled by Carwise administration only served to fuel the fire. The bullies knew it was my son who made the report as they taunted and harassed him about it. Since Carwise failed to act quickly and effectively, the bullies grew in numbers. Carwise set the standards. Students that bully and harass others don't face significant consequences, if they even receive a consequence at all. Bullies were getting chance after chance. Why? Carwise said there wasn't enough video evidence, or there were conflicting statements. One could only assume some students were afraid of the bullies or were friends with them. One could also assume administration didn't want to be bothered or didn't want to do the paperwork. I have repeatedly asked what has to happen before zero tolerance is enforced and have yet to receive an answer. My son was victimized by students and further by the action and inaction of school personnel. He was pulled out of class, moved to the front of the bus, had his name announced during lunch, escorted to the bus, none of it discreet. I was under the assumption that the bullying was isolated to the bus. I was so wrong. My son was not telling me what students were doing to him during the school day because he was afraid the bullying would get worse. He feared retaliation, and that was a valid fear because he would be harassed by the bullies after my phone calls or emails to administration about the bus. The bullies were committing felony-level crimes against my son, yet had more rights and freedoms than my son. He was in fear and still lives in fear. I'm not going to go into detail about what those fears are because you don't deserve to know his inner thoughts and feelings. Voicing those would likely only lead to more victimization. You did not care about him when I sent emails or completed a Let's Talk for the superintendent, which was to be shared with the board. It appears as though carwise started to care, or at least started to pretend to try and help my son, when they finally realized I was serious when I said enough is enough, and also initiated a call to the area superintendent. But they weren't looking out for my son when they finally sent home a Hope Scholarship notification letter or wrote a safety plan and no contact agreement. They were looking out for themselves and trying to cover their ass. They even pulled my son out of class during exam week in December and made him write multiple statements about incidents that happened dating back 5 months ago in August. The only time that we heard from a social worker was to ask if my son still goes to that school. It is apparent that Carwise and Pinellas County Schools has zero tolerance for the victim. Multiple instances of students bullying my son, and who is still there? All of them, except one, my son. But you know what? I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. So I ask again, what has to happen before zero tolerance is enforced?
And thank you for being here and your comments, but maybe too, we're in the same situation. Dr. Gonzalez, you could raise your hand back there. Thank you.
I've spoken with her, and we've never received a follow-up call or anything, so...
She'll speak.
Oh, I bet you will now.
Our next two speakers are Megan Brunel and Jackson Brunel.